welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Hello! Hello!
Hey, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, welcome. Good to have you all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
Negative, and let's not waste a whole show on it. Although it was not a waste, it was a great show yesterday. But no.
Yeah, as I was pushing buttons, with the show crashing, OBS just crashed. It's crashed at least 3 times since its last update. Right when I press the live button, it crashes. So I have to reset everything with a couple of minutes spare. Hey, Arwin.
Hey, you guys having trouble with OBS?
Yeah, you're not kidding. My screen flashes, I get screen tearing, and it crashes when I go live. So I have to restart the live stream. But there we go. I'm so.
I had some weird sound issues a few days back, where it like I would click away a window, and then if something was going on in that window with sound, it would get locked into the final second of that sound, like really freaky. That was since the OBS update, but it's gone now. So
it's not been a great update. I've got to be honest. I've had lots of issues. The sound, on the other hand, for me, I'm finally reaching a point after about 2 years of fiddling around with sound settings where I'm actually quite happy with the sound now. Although I accidentally bumped up my gain yesterday during that show, so it was clipping from the bloody preamp. I have to get it all right and everything else. But there we go. It was only a tiny bit of distortion as opposed to the normal crackly horribleness that comes whenever I get loud. Or go beyond -6 dB, as the case may be. Shout out to Rob L, who has joined as a member for 15 further months. Thank you very much indeed. He says, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to you, Rob L. But yeah, I don't think it was a waste of time. So Neil and lots of people in the comments were saying it was a good show yesterday. Check it out. I actually felt that the pre-show was better than the live show. I don't know why, but just by pure chance, I started quite early. Everything worked really smoothly yesterday, and I got everything set up within, 10 minutes. So I started quite early on. He joined quite early on. We got straight into it, and there was a good solid maybe 50 minutes of discussion, and it was good. It's the earlier bit, so obviously there's less frustration because he's repeated things 20 times. But that's available to members now, Rob L. So check it out. I think you were a member anyway, but yeah, if you want to check that out, that's members only. It will get released on the second channel. Subscribe today to my second channel if you do want to catch up with the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. They get released 2 or 3 days later for free on the second channel. So subscribe today. There's a link in the info box to my second channel if you did want to catch them without having to pay. So there you go. Also, as I'm plugging things, there's several videos. What I typically used to do was whenever there was a good section that I wanted to trim out, I'd trim it out and immediately publish it. In fact, I'd go out of my way to get it done as soon as I possibly could. I've stopped doing that now and actually publish those videos to members only. And what I will start doing, rather than repeating some of the shows that have been out on the second channel over the weekend, is just release those videos. So in the normal time slots, that's 2 PM UK and 9 PM UK. So 2 PM for this show and 9 PM on the second channel. Over the weekend, those will be replaced at least this weekend and hopefully going forward, providing I've got stuff to clip out in those slots. So there's going to be like maybe a 10-minute, 5-minute, 12-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute, whatever it is, video that'll come out in those time slots over the weekend. So I know that there's lots of people who may be unaware and go, I don't necessarily watch over the weekend because I'll have watched it already on the second channel. Fine. But now those will be new clips that have typically been members only for the few days before they get published. But as I'm plugging stuff, does someone else want to plug anything as we're beginning of a live show? This is terrible. I'm such a whore. I'd expect you to plug something in that particular gap, Arwin. Subscribe today to Arwin.
Oh, right. Yes. Do subscribe to me. My subscribers have gone up a little, like 10 or something. But that's like, oh, wow, something actually changed. I'm allowed more subscribers now. That's so special.
All
But
right.
my chat is great, though. So it doesn't feel like the amount of people that participate at this point in my chat actively every day does not feel like it properly reflects the amount of subscribers I'm having. But I'm fine with it. Subscribe to me today, ARWIGN. I have a live show every day right before the Flat Earth debate.
Yeah, Flat Earth Early Bird.
2 hours before it, actually.
Let's get back onto housekeeping. We've done like a good solid 5 minutes of promoting our own channel and our own shows and our second channels and our early bird shows. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Negative.
It was a mistake to ever claim that we would expect to see Coriolis deviation on the spinning ball Earth.
So, very
They
interesting.
realize that now.
Very interesting point you've made there, Are you suggesting that were it not the case that they moved from geocentric to heliocentric sphere Earth, it might not have dawned on people with air travel and such that there was a problem with the sphere Earth at all? Are you saying that the first crack in the wall was non-geocentric, heliocentric, therefore Coriolis? Is that what you're suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is that at the time, the people probably felt still the fresh weight, the impact that Einstein had made with his theory of relativity that was widely misunderstood and people didn't realize it's just all pure mathematics and all that. So they thought like, yeah, we can just say this and then explain it away. It's just relative to kind of undo that explanation. But over time, Einstein's influence has kind of waned on the public and now doesn't have that same kind of impact to respond with that. So yes, I think it was a mistake that just like the moon landing, the technology was all there, the moment was there, like this can work, we can make it work. Well, now several decades later, it doesn't work anymore. People can see right through it. And I think the same thing counts for the Coriolis deviation claim for spinning ball Earth. Yes.
Okay. If the Earth was a sphere, then we would experience Coriolis effect, as per the globe Earth claim that we do see Coriolis effect. The examples given are things like gyroscopes and pendulums that have an apparent deviation. That would mean you notice them seem to deviate because it's claimed Earth turns beneath them. Or in a more simplistic way, Neil deGrasse Tyson saying a ball curves through a goalpost because Earth turned beneath the ball. That's, again, Coriolis effect. You observe the ball from the stand seeming to drift, seeming to take a curved path, not because it's actually curving, but because Earth's turning beneath it, moving the goalposts. So that's the claim. However, if Earth turns beneath the ball, as is claimed by Neil deGrasse Tyson, in line with the globe Earth claim of Coriolis, then Earth would turn underneath a hot air balloon and a drone, and you if you jumped up and down. And moreover, it would shorten flight times, because for you to see a plane seeming to drift from the ground as Earth turns beneath the plane, then Earth would turn beneath the plane, and that would shorten flight times. For an example, a Charlotte, North Carolina to LA flight would only take an hour and a half rather than 4 hours, because you're observing it seem to drift as Earth turns beneath it from the ground. Yeah, we're not seeing that effect. Earth isn't turning. We'd have Coriolis if it was. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Only on a flat plane model.
Sorry. It's over there.
Lucky old
Shining
you.
brightly, whatever it is, it's over there.
So we did cover this in the pre-show because there is no need for us to claim a height. There's no need in celestial navigation, and they're not measuring for the height. You're not travelling to the star, you're travelling to positions on the ground and locating your fix where you are with triangulation by way of a straight line to the GP. That's the ground position below the star. So all you're trying to achieve is navigation along the ground. So the distance to the sun, in this example, with the question notwithstanding, in housekeeping, is irrelevant.
Well,
And it,
the
go on, John.
the people that believe they're on a globe are going to use flat Earth angle measurements to assert a distance after they ignore the initial measurement and insert a radius value to the ground.
Yeah, I wish we'd spotted that in 2015. So back in 2015, you had the most prevalent video that I can remember being discussed, might not have been the most viewed, but was a smokescreen design response to Red's rhetoric's response to Jeranism with regards to measuring the height of celestial objects. And in that video, Smokescreen pulls apart how Red's rhetoric had taken a flat Earth angle measurement and then inserted a presuppositional R value into the mathematics. Now, at the time, the point that was extrapolated from that was it works the same on both. I can extrapolate this maths either way. I can either do it with a sphere assumption and insert R, therefore curving the ground that was just measured straight, or I can just do it straight. And then straight comes out with the trig for this height, globe comes out with the height that they claim. But it was only stacked up in terms of almost pointing out that it was a false dichotomy. No connection was made at the time that, so what Reds has actually done is proved a flat Earth and then taken that proof of a flat Earth to insert an R value that would essentially bend the line he's just measured, making it paradoxically idiotic. So inserting an R to bend a line that had to be straight to get the value. So he proved flat Earth and then bastardized it into a sphere with a presuppositional R value we debunked in 2020. Obviously, 2020 hindsight.
Yeah, that would have been nice if we would have known what we know now.
So well over 100 people watching now, over 120 people watching, and we're only 13 minutes into the live show. So thank you very much to all of you who smashed the share button. And if you're new, there's been a few people who subscribed in the last day as a result of presumably lots of people sharing yesterday's debate. Very warm welcome to you all. Please share the show if you haven't done so already. That is the only reason that there is 120 odd people watching, because the people who are watching and are regulars do share the show. But if you haven't shared it, please smash the share button. Really appreciate it if you've done so already.
How many flat earthers have had a glober shove a false dichotomy in their face with models?
It's fairly prevalent.
Probably every one.
1 in 3,
Sorry.
third of the claims.
I mean, we used to get asked that. By the way, good morning, everybody.
Hey, Chocolate.
Does my mic sound all right, or should I use my other? I got
Nah, it's fine.
Bluetooth on.
It's good enough.
All right, cool. Now I was gonna say, yeah, that's what I mean. When this first started, that's what we got asked all the time. Where's your model? Where's your model? Where's your model? You have a model? Oh, you don't have a model? Oh, so then it's got to be a globe.
Sort of like Ken Hovind demanding someone have a model, and then he's going to represent the flat Earth celestial sphere model in his argument, and you have to pick a different model of a flat Earth.
Let's go through that right now. This is something I want to be at the forefront of our discussions over the next 12 months. In the same way we focused primarily on the Black Swan, then on the Sextant, and now in 2022, elevation angle. Well, elevation angle measurements are used by both sides, but when it's used without transposing the angle in terms of its raw use at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth on something called the equatorial plane. Now that angle that is only accurate at that centre of that rock that you can't stand on, because you can't stand in the middle of a sphere Earth. But the way they've actually got it working is with a flat plane at the centre of a sphere Earth. So therefore, the acquisition of this angle is still being done on a flat plane. They're just cutting their sphere in half and describing you standing in the middle of it. Now, if they then transpose those angles out and say, oh, the light's parallel from the star, it actually doesn't match. Adam pointed this out the other day. They may get it out to an infinite distance so it almost matches, but it doesn't match. Further to that, that's not where the angle came from. The whole point of them saying, well, it's moving parallel to the centre of the Earth is because that's where it's actually going to be utilised, on a plane. So the celestial sphere, as much as the terminology bugs me a little bit, is actually a claim of a flat plane, because you'll be utilising the celestial sphere with the equatorial plane. Now, those words and terminologies are inclusive of a sphere belief, but it doesn't alter the fact that it is actually being done on a plane. It can't not be. Our current argument with elevation angles is to say you can't acquire an elevation angle from a curved surface, and you can't. That is why it's dealt with on the equatorial plane. And you're not standing here, you're not standing in the middle of, you're not at the molten iron core to get angles out beyond the rock that is then redundant and useless, out to an infinitely projected distance for the star measurement itself. You've just got the flat plane that they're going to be putting you on with you at the centre so that they can get this as a straight line and then an angle out to whatever the star they're measuring at an infinite distance. Well, that is a flat plane with a dome of the heavens over it. That is how globers describe this being done. I kid you not. So throughout yesterday's show, John was trying to get the point in that one of the things that the opponent's not realising is when they're claiming their celestial sphere, they're actually stacking up a flat Earth model with a sphere wrapped around a point you can't stand in versus a flat Earth model we haven't claimed. So it's flat Earth versus flat Earth strawman, neither of which we're claiming. The first flat Earth being a measurement of an angle to acquire a sphere, to project that sphere onto a flat map, and then perform celestial navigation with angle measurements that can only be done on a plane, described by them on a globe as an equatorial plane. So a flat Earth. Can't not be, you wouldn't get the angles if it wasn't. So their globe's a flat Earth model. And they're trying to stack that up against a flat Earth acquisition of angles that's been transposed into a globe model that's been transposed onto a flat Earth model. No, a map. But they say that's our model. So it's flat Earth strawman versus flat Earth strawman. One is misunderstood to be a globe, and it really isn't. It's using an equatorial plane. The other is just a projection of a flat Earth onto a globe model, onto a flat Earth model, that's then reified and burnt like it's our model.
It was a clever magic trick while it lasted.
Complicated magic trick. Nice to be able to summarise it, though, taking 7 years.
Now it's kind of... Sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, now it's kind of blatant. Now they're just handing us diagrams of a horizontal plane over a sphere and telling us that's how we have to measure it.
Dingleberry Earth. Yeah, Dingleberry Earth. A big, massive flat plane that we're being told. I can't remember who it was that confirmed this. I think it was Brian or Adam confirmed it with Ruhif, that the plane they're describing with a tiny little sphere potentially dangling below it, in fact infinitesimally small if it's infinite according to them, is a flat plane that could be as massive as you like, infinite. Now, I would never claim such a thing, but they've still got a little tangent point that was debunked in 2020 with the Black Swan attached to a dingleberry sphere dangling below the actual flat plane that you can navigate along and have to make no corrections for this dingleberry that they dangle beneath it on a debunked tangent point. So yeah, Dingleberry Earth.
So not only does it have to be a horizontal plane, but it can be an infinitely large horizontal plane. Just imagine you could just have it as large as you want. That's ridiculous.
So long as you say tangent first, which you didn't. So as long as you say an infinitely large tangent plane, well, I said tangent, that means there's a sphere involved at some point.
Then I'd be begging the question, though.
Yeah, tangent to what? We debunked their tangent point. They don't have a tangent point.
Wait, infinite tangent plane?
Yeah, that's what Rufy told, I think it was Brian. He tried to establish, it might have even been Flatsoid, I can't remember to credit them, but someone was saying to him, well, how big can this plane be? This tangent plane with Dingleberry Earth dangling below it. And the answer was infinite. As large as it needs to be. Like, however large it needs to be, given that we can navigate along a flat plane for thousands and thousands of miles and it be accurate. Well, that notwithstanding that we can and do and must use a flat plane to navigate, it can be as large as you like, so long as I say tangent before it. So at some point, there's a dingleberry dangling below that massive infinite flat plane, and that retains my sphere belief. Even though it's not used, it's not necessary, and if you tried to correct it, it wouldn't work anymore. It's great. It's such a good argument.
It kind of sounds like they're suggesting, like, yeah, a sphere consists of one giant plane.
Sounds like the 1984 thing.
But doesn't it? They're just thinking, like, yeah, a sphere consists of one giant flat plane.
Yeah, and they tell us how, when you look out and take pictures, globe Earth refraction bends it all so it all looks very, very flat for a very, very big area. Locally flat, in fact. You're like, so it looks flat, right? Yeah. And when you navigate it, you measure it flat. Yeah. And that means it's a sphere. Yeah. They're just idiots at this point. The anti-flat earthers.
I mean,
We've said this before, and I'll say it again. They're on the way to the nut house, all of them. Woohoo! 150 people watching. Please share the show. Thank you very much if you've just joined us. Very warm welcome. Go ahead, whoever that was in Discord. Sorry to cut you off. I was just excited about 150 people watching at this early juncture of the show.
I was just laughing yesterday with that guy when he was saying it's okay if it's curved a little bit. You can still get an handle off a little curve. It was so funny.
Yeah, that struck me as having done some surface level research in the couple of days leading up to coming in. Plus, after the fact, again, this is available to members now. If you want to check it out, you'll have to be a member or watch on Monday of next week. Lots of people after the fact were in the Discord server telling us live and in the comments that this guy had done the rounds, right? And explained many of his arguments to people. And had it pointed out that he hadn't accounted for magnetic declination like Brian was trying to drum home to him. Now, I was trying to stop Brian from doing that because the overriding point is that you've got to assume antipodal positioning if you're going to make any of these claims about travelling to the south and looking at stars because they're there in all these different positions at the bottom of a sphere. But that's an assumption of a sphere as opposed to, well, the argument in terms of how you've stacked it up to prove that if I assume I'm at the bottom of a sphere, I'll see all these different lights in the sky in these directions. Well, the last little bit of that, the in these directions bit, doesn't actually work in their claim in the first instance either. But that sort of suckers you into going back to the 2016 debunk of it, which works, don't get me wrong. But Adam stepped in and also pointed out that he's doing it with Stellarium. He's not saying, well, if I look in this direction and here I am standing at this point on the Earth looking in that direction, assuming I'm dangling off the bottom of it if I'm in Australia or in South Africa, you know, okay, so long as you're assuming you're dangling off the bottom of it, you're looking at it and you're looking in what direction? No, you're not, because you haven't accounted for magnetic declination. Now, when he was grilled on it by Brian, he immediately said, I didn't need to account, I haven't accounted for magnetic declination. And then Brian launched into how that makes it fail on that particular score, which, because he hadn't managed to wrap his head around the fact that begging the question of dangling antipode from a spherical position when you move south is how the argument failed, he suddenly could focus on something he could wrap his head around within his argument, which is the direction he's pointing when he looks in Stellarium. And Brian saying, well, that isn't correct. There's no magnetic declination. We know that this argument works. But that's when he started getting triggered, because he could actually see a premise he did understand in his own argument, because he couldn't, like I say, wrap his head around the begging the question bit, fall apart. So he got very, very triggered and then started lying, which is what I'm driving at with everyone pointing this out, because he'd gone to so many people saying he's lying. He hadn't got magnetic declination. Why was he suddenly saying he had accounted for it once Brian pointed out that it needed to be but hadn't? Suddenly completely changed his story, having gone to so many people. Obviously, this is a small community, so straight away the people who talked to him have gone into the comments and gone, he knew damn well it hadn't got that accounted for. He'd gone through this with me. I told him not to, blah, 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 blah. So basically, lying scumbag. Just immediately change your story once it's been pointed out to be wrong by Brian, because the begging the question bit's so far over your head.
I got a small correction, although it was perfect. And you had 2 victories over him, You said you're 2-0. No, he was 0-2. He failed
0 for 2.
twice.
0
You gave
for
him
2.
2 victories.
Yeah. Majoring on the minors or what? 0 for 2. Who cares? But yeah, it's again, in the pre-show today, someone was saying, was it you, Neil, that it was a good transition from the very old 2015 original arguments that are so prevalent in the mainstream media that anybody who was listening to that show would recognise them, right up to elevation angle measurement, how he's going to do it, how he's got no argument for it, how I can declare it as a proof and victory without any challenge. And the only challenge that we've got from them is repeated at nausea, with the overcome having to be spelled out and the fallacy having to be spelled out, detailed in terms of how the fallacy works and how it connects to the claim, with the fallacy intact around the claim, being parroted back verbatim, to then be told I'm not listening to the claim and have it repeated again. You're like, oh, poor show. But hopefully that was telling to the people watching. I don't know. Not a lot of people gave me feedback from the general populace because we don't have that as an audience. It's a focused, tight-knit community that watches the show and share it amongst themselves, and occasionally 1 or 2 people in that show that I might get that in the comments, we'll see. But I'd like to know how it was received by normies. Maybe we'll never know. We don't reach normies anymore. If you look, you won't even find me. Please share the show. Any scientific evidence of gravity? Let's change the subject slightly.
First, you need to know what it is.
What is it?
I'm just going to say, what's gravity?
You tell me.
Well, according to Professor Phil Bell, they don't know yet.
Okay. Let's base our worldview on it then.
Phil Bell.
Mathematical construct.
Yeah, mathematical construct, I'll go with that. 4th dimensional pseudo-Riemannian space-time bending as a result of the uneven distribution of maths according to Einstein. Well, yeah, that's a pseudo-Riemannian for space-time that we don't live in now, isn't it? That only exists in maths.
That's imagination land.
Hold on. Do you want to read that out, Owen? Go ahead. I've got it up.
Right. At Darwin, that is why Newton is so useful. Both are just models referring to Newtonian and Einsteinian gravity. Neither of them are real. We don't know what gravity actually is.
That is absolutely priceless.
Wow.
Phil Bell's got a reputation or a tendency to do exactly this, which is, what's the quote he said from me? Nathan says that we have to beg the question of a sphere. Well, yes. He's got some great lines. Thank you, Phil Bell. Yes, you don't know what it is. Oh, right. Yet you think it's the arbiter of almost everything that you have any trouble with when it comes to debate.
It's the newer guys, right, that come in, and sometimes it's like they haven't done the research. They don't really know what's transpired already in the past, like how we've argued about presupposition that these guys do all the time, and then this guy comes out, and one of the first things he says, yeah, of course we do that. Same thing with Mr. Sensible, right?
At best.
With his, at best, what you've done here is disprove the radius. Oh, thanks, Mr. Sensible. We appreciate that.
And the problem is they don't realise how big a bear trap they've stepped in when they do something like that, because of that embarrassing admission that nobody needed on the Globe side when he said it. Nobody needed that, because that's our point. It's just at that point nobody's conceded it because they can't bear to. So it's dumbfounded silence and rinse and repeat rather than say, well, all you've done is debunk the radius. It's like, yeah, that's exactly our point now, isn't it? So when he admitted it and everyone held him to task on it, he had to justify it, and has continued to do so right up until the present day. Well, his justification for that is, well, the radius values move because the horizon's moved. Okay, what, changing the value to beyond the presuppositional heliocentric orbital path of the moon, if that was what you were using, the black swan? You're like, okay, so you're still going to claim it's a physical geometric position to measure, but it's just a bit bigger today by a few 100,000 miles. But yeah, it's because of refraction. It's because there's no straight lines, because we can't see the geometric horizon. Now he's defending that while we've got people here saying, of course we can see the geometric horizon. We're going to draw a tangent plane to it so we can draw angles from it. That's what we've got going on. But he's still defending his stupid nonsense from 2020 because he's so embarrassed about it.
Yeah, but my son said the same thing. So you debunked the radius, not understanding what that means.
Yeah.
And how
debunking the
can anything
radius.
be declared? How can anything be declared as something if they don't know what it is? Like
Well,
gravity.
just had Phil Bell telling us he doesn't know what gravity is. Gets worse. Oh, how embarrassing to be a Glober at the moment. I got to big up I don't normally blow smoke up my own ass, but I'm going to today because I was so proud of myself when I managed to link boats falling over the edge. I've wanted to do that for so long. Have a claimant come in and start telling me how boats fall over the edge. Now, obviously, once we debunked it and pointed out when we were really learning how to debunk it in 2016 with the calculator, we would debunk it and it'd take a long time. And we didn't then realise that the weakest part of the globe argument, that's boats going over the horizon, was directly linked to the controlled opposition narrative of Flat Earth Society with boats falling over an edge. So why is that thrown at us? Well, because boats fall over the edge of a sphere. That's why. That's why we're asked to explain why our boats fall off the edge of pizza pie that Flat Earth Society show you. Yeah, no. In reality, the globe's got boats falling over an edge now, hasn't it? But I've never had the chance to cream somebody so beautifully with the juxtaposition into my phraseology of, so you're saying boats fall over an edge, are you? And the person hears that, like, you can hear it in his voice. I'm not saying they fall over an edge. You just said they fall over an edge. You said they went over an edge. I just changed went to fall. That's all I changed. But suddenly the audience gets to see, oh, yeah. So when flat earthers are asked about boats falling over an edge, it's the globe that's got boats falling over edges now, isn't it? Oh, yeah, that's not unintentional. That's absolutely deliberate.
Where's your edge, Globers?
Where's your
He
edge,
did-
fundies?
Hey,
Exactly.
he didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't like that one bit. I did.
I loved it. That was funny.
Excellent.
Yeah, they haven't got an edge. We debunked it. Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's the geometric Earth curve edge that he claimed boats were going over. It's in the maths, marked with an X and labelled horizon. That's your geometric sphere edge Earth curve that we debunked by showing that it's beyond the limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959 in the Black Swan image. Supposed to be a couple of miles away, well below the frame of the shot that we're showing, and it's beyond the oil rigs, not blocking them with a physical geometry. Earth curve, like a hill, hills don't move with the weather. That's why we've debunked your geometry. Oh, we've only debunked R. Well, your entire premise and a claim in the first instance needs that R. And not only that, the claim that it's moved with refraction needs R. Because their refraction includes R. 7/6 of it in standard form. It's called terrestrial refraction. It's based on R. So the moment you say at best you've debunked the radius value, why have we? Because refraction that needs R that's been debunked. You're definitely not going to get around this by refracting it with R when you're saying it's the thing we've debunked with it. Yeah, idiots.
That's why I don't ascribe malice to it, because
When
they
it
already
disappears, things disappear into the distance. How can it be? They have to go over a curve. Why else would they disappear?
Perspective, things get smaller into the distance. You get further away from something. It's father's head level perspective. This cow is small, holds up a small toy cow close to Dougal. Those cows, looking out the window at real cows in a field, are far away. Right, so we all appreciate that things get smaller into the distance. Well, in Earth curve maths, they ascribe a feet and inches or metres value to a target. So it's a 2 metre cow. Well, it's a 2 metre cow if it's 100 miles away. So you can see a cow at 200 miles, 300 miles, 400 miles. Because if you draw it in the way that the Earth curve maths is drawn, you have the observer on the left-hand side of the page. That would be you seeing the side of your own head now. And the cow on the right. And you draw a straight line between them and say, here's your flat Earth. There's 1,000,000 miles between you and this cow. You'd see it if Earth was flat. And you go, no, the cow's miles too small. You'd never see it. It's just too small. But in their maths, it's still a 2 metre cow at any distance. It's not an angular not actual apparent size, like Dougal had explained. Now it's an actual size that never changes with distance. That's why we call it the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking. Yes, you can observe this effect. It's an effect of perspective. In their maths, it's not. When you get to that limitation of the perspective, you've got an Earth curve edge physically blocking the bottom of whatever is in the distance, even though it's an angular limitation that we can demonstrate time and time again, and you can see flat earthers showing coins sliding along tables and the bottoms disappearing on flat surfaces because of angular limitations. Well, they've been hijacked and called Earth curve, and when it's shown diagrammatically, it's shown with you seeing the side of your own head 90 degrees to the position that the photograph will be compared to it with. Therefore, Earth curve, because the target has got the bottom missing. How much? Oh, 15 feet of a 100-foot building's missing. It's like, what do you mean 15 feet's missing? What's the angular relationship? How much angle have we got to view the bottom above the deck? That's a very limited angle. Is it beyond the resolution limit? Oh, it is. Oh, let's not concern ourselves with that when the only claim is a geometric horizon debunked by the black swan getting in the way with its physicality. What's that? You show it beyond its physicality. Oh, it's the weather. So not Earth curve blocking stuff then. Suddenly the weather's getting in the way of stuff when your math shows Earth curve getting in the way. That's the end of the claim. Earth curve isn't the horizon. And that's the fundamental premise of an Earth curve claim. 190 people watching. Woo-hoo-hoo! Please share the show. Smash the super chat.
I was gonna say, like, they're technically correct about the flat Earth, and you would see everything, right, within an orthographic view perspective. So in their orthographic view, where they really love to look at that globe model, right, because it works there. Yeah, if they then replace that globe, so you're supposedly standing on with a flat plane, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. There's this little detail,
Whoever see it like that?
well, that's the thing. Like, the real world isn't an orthographic view.
Right. And we live in the real world, right?
Yeah, it
Yes.
seems so.
Thanks.
And I think it's a perfect time for the brick analogy, since 190 people are watching.
Okay, I don't mind giving the brick analogy. So if you've got a brick and you take it out to a mile and stick it on the horizon, there's a good chance that you can see that brick. Now, if you take the same brick and put it another 2.5 miles away, 3 miles away, 4 miles away, whatever you want to accept that it's going to disappear because it's too small, yeah, that brick has vanished. So you're looking out at a brick at 5 miles, you can't see it, it's too small to see, its angular size is too limited against the deck, so it vanishes. Now, if you are to take a lot more bricks and build a high-rise building on top of that first brick, the angular resolution, the size of the high-rise, is easily visible. But the resolution of the first brick you laid down at 5 miles is still not resolvable. It's too small to see, therefore you're missing a brick from this high-rise. You can't see the bottom brick. Not because of Earth curve getting in the way, but because the brick is too small to see at the base of the tower. As you go higher, the angle increases, the tower becomes visible. Doesn't mean that the angle is increased to the bottom brick that disappeared at 5 miles. Ergo, bottom-up obstruction as a direct result of angular limitation. That's perspective. Sod all to do with Earth curve. It's the only claim they make. It's based on R, and we debunked R. Black swan. No Earth curve. The horizon isn't Earth curve. If things disappear into the distance, there is no reason to assert, through ignorance, that it's caused by a physical blockage called Earth curve. We've debunked that.
But now they claim we could never see because apparently we have an atmosphere.
It's not
But we can't ever see that. Yeah, of course it is. But apparently that's the reason why we can't see this thing called the geometric horizon, aka the Earth curve.
So this is where the argument comes full circle. So they tell us as a result of us pointing out that the horizon, formerly an Earth curve hill, blockage, obstruction in the way of boats and buildings with them falling over it at the edge, that's the horizon, is actually beyond the limitations. It's way beyond things it should be blocking. So they say, oh, well, refraction has moved the horizon. No longer making it Earth curve, no longer making it geometric, no longer making it a blockage, ruining all of the geometry, meaning you can't measure the geometry anymore. But that's what they tell us, refraction, even though that actually defeats their claim in the first instance. If it's refracted, the horizon, Earth curve, it's not geometric. That's their claim in the first instance, based on an R value, that we've got a geometric blockage called Earth curve, but they've refracted it. So, if you refract the horizon in your globe model, you're refracting the horizon with a R value, an R value. That's in atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. An oxymoron. Air takes the shape of its container. It's not sphere-shaped. You can have air moving in all directions inside a sphere-shaped container, but sphere Earth definitely doesn't have a sphere-shaped container around it. It doesn't have any containment. Nevertheless, they've got air as an oxymoron in a sphere-shaped, resulting in light always, without exception, bending through their said sphere-shaped air. So light always bends. So you're never seeing anything other than a bendy line moving away from your position, always without exception. Everything you look at, without exception, isn't really where it's supposed to be, because of terrestrial refraction, always. Then we get to, how do you measure a straight line to get an angle? So if you're measuring the sun and what angle it's got, that's two straight lines. How do you get that straight line? And the answer is, you don't. Enter Mr. Sensible to reiterate how it's always all bent lines, never a straight one, not a geometric horizon, no tangent point. So in our current 2022 argument, that would be that celestial navigation and the angle measurement known as an elevation angle proves the Earth is flat. They're trying to get around it by drawing a tangent, that's a straight line, to a geometric horizon Earth curve. That's tangent point, Earth curve, your horizon of block boats, yeah? Debunked, yeah? Refracted, yeah? That's where Mr. Sensible comes in, to just make everybody in the current debate well and truly aware that you haven't got any straight lines. It's always all refracted. Never expecting to see the geometric horizon, are we? Yeah, we know you're never going to find a straight line on your globe. Meanwhile, celestial navigation requires them and uses them, debunking any notion of a sphere Earth with its always in effect terrestrial sphere-shaped air and the refraction not giving you a straight line ever to anything. Yeah, that's the total annihilation of a sphere Earth claim, and the concrete proof Earth is obviously, observably and measurably, navigatably flat.
You know what the ironic thing is? If they'd actually apply terrestrial refraction consequences or correction for terrestrial refraction in their orthographic view modeling, they would end up with a flat plane. And if they then show that, like, yeah, we can use straight lines again because we're actually in this model correcting for terrestrial refraction, so we're just showing you this flat plane, then we as flat earthers could say, but things, you actually don't see them because they're too small in the distance. Well, in this model where you correct for terrestrial refraction, where everything is more as is, as if you would see it, well, why do things still disappear then? To basically address, oh yeah, did you forget you don't apply perspective in that form of modeling?
And if anyone's unclear about how they don't apply perspective, I'll just reiterate that a 10-foot wall in Earth curve maths is 10 foot at any distance because they use actual sizes only. Well, when you're viewing something, hashtag shit shrinks. Things get smaller into the distance. Yes, it's still 10 foot in actual size, but in an orthographic diagram with you on the left and the wall on the right, you can draw a line between the two and put any distance you like on it, a million miles, and claim that you should see it on a flat Earth. And it's only when you bend the line and have a tangent to it, that's a straight line, that an Earth curve, tangent point, horizon, gets in the way. That's why you're not seeing the 10-foot wall. Look, there's 2 foot of it missing. Yeah, that's an actual size hijacking of perspective. That would be the angular relationship between you and something at distance. Removed completely from Earth curve maths and hijacked. Relabeled Earth curve. It isn't. Shout out to Ben White, who says, is Earth still offering 3 Bitcoin for proving Earth is a spinning ball in a vacuum? Very telling that not one person out of 7 billion has ever come close. Yeah, he is still offering it as far as I'm aware, given that the guy who came yesterday, Ben, was actually trying to achieve Bitcoin with 2015 arguments.
Oh, he thought he'd won it as well.
Exactly. He said he won.
I'm delusional. That's like most. He was an anti-flat earther by the end of the show. He came in as a glober. I think he was halfway there because of the amount of people he'd spoken to before he came on the show. Also, he had a vague idea about the elevation angle argument, which probably means he watched for the last couple of days, got a vague idea what we were talking about. And after the fact that I only know this now, what he was essentially trying to do is he'd sent 2 presentations, one really late and one that I'd looked at, gone 2015 stuff. Yeah, whenever he comes in, great, I'll deal with it. And then hadn't really, like, I don't. Anybody who knows me knows I just don't keep up with messages. I'm just busy. It's not because I'm lazy. I do eventually get to them. People moan at me because I don't look at messages. So presumably David sent me the second presentation, which was very, very, very slim by comparison to all these crappy 2015 claims. He'd basically written them all off. So he was trying to figure a way, because I hadn't realised that he'd sent a second presentation that only included his one argument. That's why he wouldn't move away from it. And he was trying to distance himself from the first, well, that's a different presentation that I've made and put down and sent to Dave to try and get Bitcoin. He sent on to you. You've assessed and gone, it's a load of old crap. He's trying to relinquish himself of that in a very weaselly way. But weaselly enough for me to not pick up on it in the moment. You know, I kind of admire this guy. I'm smiling because the level of weaselly, if I don't pick up on it, I'm like, you got me there, you little weasel. I like it. I like it a lot.
Well, hey Nathan, hey everyone.
Hey Brian. Was it you that got Roofy to admit that it's an
Brian.
infinitely massive tangent plane with Dingleberry Earth dangling below it? Was that you?
Yeah, I put out a video asking how big can a tangent plane be on the globe Earth, and Ruhif responded, and everyone followed suit then with what Ruhif said. Ruhif and everyone else after him said it can be, there's no definitive size, it can be infinite in size. A tangent plane can be infinite in size on the globe Earth.
Just like flat Earth.
Well, no, I don't claim that. If you want to claim an infinite plane, then you're going to have me on your back for the rest of the show. If he wants to, like the guy yesterday, claim an infinite plane, was that first bit tangent? No, Roofy. We debunked that. Yeah? That's Mr. Sensible. What was the tangent point to again, a geometric horizon, Roofy? Mr. Sensible will set you straight. What is it, no Atmo day? Meanwhile, you say it can be infinite. Well, that's a claim you'll have to back in terms of how big the infinite plane. We're definitely on a plane, by the way. You're trying to justify the infinite nature of that plane with a dingleberry attached by a tangent. No, debunked. But infinite plane. Yeah, plane. Yeah, I'll get behind you on that bit, Roofy. Yeah, plane. I know about infinite. What I do know is that everywhere that's being navigated and can be navigated and is navigated by way of this method called celestial navigation requires a flat plane, like you're describing. We just debunked the dingleberry tangent bit.
Could I say something on the angular size discussion you were having there?
You can, but there's 200 people watching. Woo-hoo-hoo! I haven't been so excited. I haven't had 200 people watching since, let me get it right, 2019, since before COVID.
That's good to know. I'm happy to hear
That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm pissing my pants. 200 people. I'm so excited. Please share the show. A very warm welcome to all of you who've just joined us. Thank you so much for tuning in live. Subscribe to my second channel. Smash the super chat. I'm just grateful that you're here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just
Also,
sorry, John.
Sorry, Brian. No, you go ahead, man.
No, you go ahead. I'll be a couple of minutes. Go on. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say also a warm welcome to all the Globers that are listening that are hating us right now. Because you keep having to present us flat plane on top of a ball in order to get your ball. That's ridiculous. But welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, everything is done on a flat plane. Everything. Just on the angular size argument. Just if you're looking at a 50-foot high ship, right? That's 50 foot off the water, and it sails away from you. When that's 8 miles away, you won't be able to resolve the bottom 20 foot. Because at 8 miles away, something that's 20 foot high will be beyond 0.02 degrees, which is the angular resolution limit of the human eye. So when you see, if you can see a 50-foot ship, which very likely someone can, at 8 miles away, right, on a clear day, then you may not see the bottom of it, right, and think, oh, maybe it's gone over our curve. It's not. It's an angular resolution issue. You can't resolve the bottom 20 foot of that ship. So all you're seeing is 30 foot of the ship above what appears to be 30 foot of the ship above the water. You're actually seeing all of it, but you can't resolve the bottom 20 foot at 8 miles away. And the whole ship will be gone some miles after that. You know, and the same is true if you have a camera. Every camera or telescope, binoculars, they all have an angular resolution limit. Even if you have a P1000, Nikon P1000, that has an angular resolution limit. And you might be able to see something very far in the distance, but you might not see the bottom of it correctly, simply because it can't resolve the bottom of it. Because the resolving comes from the bottom, right? The surface of the earth or the water up. That's the resolving. That's the point that's hardest to resolve, the very bottom. That's why things disappear from the bottom up.
Okay, I just wanted to, as we've discussed it several times, to show what we mean when we say dingleberry earth and a tangent plane. So this point being the tangent, we've debunked that. The plane is what you'll actually need in terms of what you're navigating on, regardless of whether or not you stick it in the middle of a sphere Earth by cutting it in half and calling it an equatorial plane, or sticking it on top and describing it as a tangent plane. In terms of how you'll actually use celestial navigation, you'll be doing it on one of these surfaces in terms of how you measure an angle to any celestial item in the sky. You need a flat plane. Don't matter where they stick it, in the middle of their sphere. Think you're standing in the middle of the rock to measure this angle, you're not. Or stick it on the surface, but with an infinitely expandable, in any direction, flat plane to do it on. And then they just have this little dingleberry dangling along the bottom of it, getting smaller and smaller and smaller as they expand out this infinitely expanding plane, according to them. Now, the plane you'll definitely need. You can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved surface. That's why they're all arguing for how they can get a flat plane to work with the sphere. Not how the celestial navigation works on the curved Earth, how they'll get a flat plane after the fact to work with the sphere. Because the measurement comes from a flat plane. Celestial navigation, I'll say it one more time, proves the Earth is flat. You cannot measure an elevation angle from a curved surface. You need a flat surface to do it. And there's no conversion by navigators. It's just done on a flat plane and they get to where they're going. They figure out where they are. No sphere required.
Yeah, the only real world correction that needs to happen, besides corrections with the index arm and the micrometer or whatever you might do on the sextant, the only real world correction is the height of light correction. That's the only real world correction. Other than that, when you're using a sextant on a boat at sea, that's the only correction that needs to be done for you to get the angle that's going to become the radius. That's going to show you what the distance is from you to the GP, gives you the radius of the circle of equal altitude that you're trying to find.
I've been hustling people
and
off.
to the people that are
just one second.
sorry.
Well, I've been hustling people off mute in the Discord server, but none of them have piped up after I've unmuted them, so just don't want anybody moaning after the fact. Did anybody want to pipe up at this stage from Discord? Not talking to the regulars, obviously. No, sorry. Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, I was just gonna say to the people that are kind of new to this, right? That maybe we should tell them again why they have to, because these guys are now arguing with us about how they need a flat plane, but there's a reason they call it a tangent plane, right? Can you tell them why they have to say that word tangent?
Because they have to believe that tangent plane is a line that touches a circle that they're claiming is a globe at one point underneath them. That's the tangent. And they have to believe that underneath that tangent plane there is a globe Earth. And that when they look into the distance, the reason they're seeing it be so flat and experiencing it, the whole world being so flat, is due to a refractive claim that's based on a radius value that's measured off a flat Earth. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's sad.
So it sounds silly, but that's literally what they're doing. They're telling us there's a flat plane, right, with a sphere underneath that touches the flat plane at one point. That's what they're arguing with us about, showing us diagrams of this crap.
Brilliant.
But the bit they're actually navigating and dealing with and measuring the angles from isn't the sphere, it's this flat plane. And as Chocolate's just said, that's what they're arguing with us about. Oh, we can get a flat plane from a sphere. Not only that, it can be as big as we like. The flat plane on top of the dingleberry that's not being used. That can be as big as we like. And then we've had people literally come on the show say, why would you tell me that there's no flat planes on a sphere? When one of the fundamental premises of a sphere is that it's got no flat surfaces on it. It's just nuts what we're being told at the moment. How dare you tell me that there's no flat surfaces on a sphere? It's just nuts. Like I say, Nuthouse is waiting for a lot of these globe believers who've turned anti-flat Earth.
Well, the thing about it is that, as we've already established on the show in recent times, that as soon as our opponents claim a tangent plane, then they are admitting that the process, whether it be surveying, whether it be celestial navigation, whatever, aeroplane flights, anything, as soon as they claim a tangent plane, they're admitting that this process cannot work on a curved surface. Because if it could, they wouldn't need a tangent plane. When we go to do things, we don't need tangent curves, do we? There's no such thing as a tangent curve in geometry because it's not necessary. There's only a necessity for them to take what's known as a tangent plane, a tangent line, tangent plane to a circle. It's not even to a sphere. In geometry, as far as I know, it's only to a circle. And he'll claim that there is a globe, not a circle, a globe attached to this tangent plane. If the globe is real, you shouldn't need a tangent plane. You should be able to do all these processes on a curved surface at the rate of drop that the surface is supposed to be curving from.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's the crux right there. Why, if you can do all of these things on a sphere, would they be fighting with us to have a flat plane to do these measurements on?
Perfect. Well, we'll say also, as there's 206 people watching, if for any reason you did want to join any future live streams, and there is a full Discord server, link below if you did want to join here and now, because we are still live saying this, there's a live stream queue, so someone will just move you in, and then you can obviously express your views on the shape of the Earth if you wanted to disagree with us and say, no, we can do celestial navigation on the curved surface. The reason they're arguing for a massively infinite expandable in all directions flat plane to get the measurements from and navigate on is because Dingleberry Earth is completely useful. If you wanted to join and say that, like I say, join the live stream queue, or if there is gaps at the time, you can join the live stream itself. I do believe it's full right now, though. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you in the live stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Wild plane, right? You can't have that on a globe Earth. And they teach this to children in school all across the world. And children do it and they're told they're measuring, proving the Earth is a sphere, when they're doing the complete opposite. They're proving it's not a sphere, and it can't be, as per the thing they're doing. Eratosthenes, the Eratosthenes sticks and shadows proves that it can't be a globe.
211 people at peak. Wow. I couldn't be more pleased.
Yeah. There's a lot of good energy in the air today. I had a lot of participation on my early bird show too.
I think, Nathan, it'd be a good thing for people who want to get in and who can't maybe state it in the live chat, because there could be people who want to get in and ask questions, newer people, whatever. And what's happening is there could be a group of ballers or something taking up the space in the Discord, and they're not like the people who normally talk. They're just sitting there taking up space. That kind of way. There's a lot of times I'm not really so much pointing at extremists, because I think he just likes to sit there and listen. But there often is sock account type ballers in there, and they're not saying anything.
No, that's
and
fine.
all they're doing is taking up space.
Hold on, Brian. That's what I was trying to just explain. I did show them as I was explaining it. There's a queue. There's a live stream queue that you can join now. So that I don't do any of this. I don't know how it's come to pass. Somebody's made it, and it's fantastic. I've never known who instigated that particular feature in our server or my bit of this server. But yeah, you can still join in the live stream when there's a full live stream, even if it's being cock-blocked by a load of dickheads.
Yeah, I reckon if the numbers are growing, there's going to be more people that are going to want to have something to say, whether they're on our side, they're just curious, or if they're opposition. There's going to be more people that are going to want to have something to say.
Yeah, and they can get in.
But
there's got to be a valve. So while I don't mind having no valve on the after show, because at the moment there's so many people in the after show that I can't see them all. So if somebody starts causing a bit of Discord audio chaos, it takes me it doesn't take me long, but a couple of seconds to find it. I like to be bang, like it flies on shit, done, sorted. So there's no audio chaos. But in the live show, that's paramount. I can't have somebody just start spewing something that they shouldn't. I need to be able to shut them down instantly. But that's why I try and keep a valve on it, so I can still add more people, but it never gets out of control.
No, I understand that totally with the live show. The live show is the live show, and obviously you have to limit the amount of coarse words and things that are said. And listen, it's not good to have a live show where audio chaos is taking place and you can't deal with it. You can't have that.
I did expect somebody to come in though. I thought we'd get an outraged, not anti-flat earther, but maybe someone on the cusp, but from the globe side coming in and going, no, actually the guy's point was lost, or I completely disagree with you saying angle measurement proves a flat earth. I thought we'd get somebody come in today live, but we didn't. Still, the best shows in my opinion are when we don't get somebody come in and we get to, my enthusiasm level went up by 1,000% as I saw the live audience numbers going up, and they have been consistently over about the last week. I've been saying, numbers have got up a bit higher this morning, and so on and so forth. But this is the peak of that. I mean, it might be even better on Monday. Who knows? But that obviously increases my enthusiasm level to really get some good points out there. And I think I hope the same is for the panel. Oh wow, there's a lot of people watching. Oh, I'll try and make a good point then and keep it concise.
Absolutely. But, it all depends on how much energy is in the air, right? Because today it's like strong. It's nice weather, good sun. It helps. I feel very strong. I was very stable on my show. And you were like really, really fluid today, Nathan. So, yeah, then when it's like that, then is when you don't want anti-flat earthers to start ruining your mood and all that, right? Because then you can really put down the high quality understanding that is available to you. But on other days, we're not really like that. And then an anti-flat earther coming in and basically riling things up is actually kind of nice, right? But you don't want to disrupt us. You don't want them to disrupt us when we're like really focused.
I feel exactly the same. Yeah, good vibe today, high energy, really good show and precise points, direct, brilliant.
Well, my favorite part is when we connect how the arguments have progressed from like where they come from. Like I thought it was brilliant that this dude came in and yesterday and said, we have boats disappearing over the curve, because it's something we haven't. I mean, we kind of talk about it, but not really, not lately. So it was good for somebody like that, who is obviously new to this, to come in and talk about that particular thing.
That guy is still saying he won too. He's in my inbox saying he won.
I'm sure he is.
Listen, he's delusional. My son said the same thing. He was like, the guy's right. Nobody's listening to him. Really, this is what you get.
just going back on that as well, though, for any newcomers, like the other guys just said, yeah, for your average Joe who's a globe believer, that they are under the presumption that everything's been proved and we live on a globe. They don't actually realise that there's not one single proof that we live on a globe. We need to drive that home to them.
Well, now the proof of that we live on a globe is actually that we measure a flat plane, which is the irony is beautiful in that.
Yeah, and because of that chocolate, what's going to happen is back to space and back to yesterday, 2015 onwards.
They're not coming in here with space, bro.
Okay,
Nobody's coming in here with space.
Okay.
Please, if there's a glober that's listening and you think that up above our heads is an infinite vacuum, please come off mute and share your pain. Please.
What they need to do, and this is something they've gotten away with for the past good while now, because more and more, I reckon, over the past year and a half, 2 years, they've been throwing out the tangent plane thing since the Black Swan. Right? They've needed a tangent plane more and more. What they need to do is they need to infer a flat plane that we'll accept is connected to the globe, and then mathematically turn it back into a globe. They need the flat plane because they know they can't prove the curve. They could never do it, and that's the problem since 2015. So now they know that they're in a position where they need us to accept that there was such a thing in reality as a tangent plane, and this just happens to be a huge flat area that is indefinable in size. It's whatever size they need it to be, and we're supposed to just accept that. And that they then will go through the processes that need to happen on that flat plane, whether it be, as I said, surveying, aerospace stuff like airplanes or celestial navigation, and then they'll mathematically try and globe it. Do you know what I mean? This is what they need to do.
It's already there, Brian. It's called terrestrial refraction, right? What it causes is the apparent flat plane that you actually get to see. And from that point, you have to undo the terrestrial refraction, and you end up with the globe model. It's exactly what it is.
Yes, no, you're not wrong. It is in the same vein, but they don't need to claim a tangent plane for that. They're not using any process. That's just a globe claim that's supposed to help people see how it's a globe while it looks always flat. Whereas to do processes like the flying of airplanes, surveying, celestial navigation, that type of stuff, they need a tangent plane. They need what they call a local horizontal. They need this. Otherwise, they can't then mathematically factor in a globe afterwards. And this is the thing, they more and more need the tangent plane.
Right. Well, that's the funny thing about terrestrial refraction. It gives exactly what they need, right? They just have to accept it's not actually what it is, but it is good enough for what they need.
Yeah, but that's a refractive claim, whereas tangent plane is a geometric claim. And that's the difference.
Right.
That's the claim of refraction. But
precisely.
Since it takes place in the medium of optics, right, it just has that filter. It has the R filter on top of it. And then it works out.
Stop a second. Brian's just got the point. It's just been whistled past by Arwin. If the horizon is refracted, or in any way described by way of its optical properties, weather, anything like that, it is, by definition, no longer geometric. The geometric parameters are set in stone. So justifying how it can be in a different position is to justify how it isn't geometric then. That's Brian's point. You're talking about the geometry. Hence, when we come back to dip correction bastardized for a sphere in celestial navigation, they're doing it based on the what? Optics? No. They're doing it based on the geometry of the tangent point. So it's set in stone what they're going to be doing, using a straight line for a tangent. Now you're saying, well, what we see optically bends in their descriptions to be appearing as flat. And that's what No. That isn't what they're using. They have to and will and can only use their geometry. Now, further to that, this is the bit I wanted to add after Brian's excellent point. What geometry is that? Spherical trig, right? Oh no, they're not using spherical trig. That's why they've got a plane dangling dingleberry earth beneath it, because they've got to use flat earth trig to do this. Again, not refracted optics. Actual flat earth Euclidean trig. No choice. That's what they are using. It's what is used. So you're taking Brian's argument, whistling past it by going, yeah, but it's good enough to say that when we see it as, or when they say it's good enough to say that if we see it bent into a straight line, we can what? Then call that geometric, when the whole principle of it being bent from a sphere to look flat is bent. It's not giving you the flat line of the geometry that they need.
Well, you may think of it as if it does.
Oh, okay. Nice get out. Yeah, nice try.
Yeah, I understand Darwin's point. It's just that to do geodetic surveying, it means you're surveying, even though you have to survey small parts, let's just say local enough parts at a time. To do geodetic surveying and make an overall claim, you've got to use tangent planes if you want to believe you're on a globe, and then mathematicalize it into a globe. And the same with if you're flying an airplane, you're holding a constant altitude. So if you're flying in a horizontal and you're holding a constant altitude, that means like you have to fly in a horizontal. That's how airplanes fly. And you're going to hold a constant altitude. It means you've got to claim a tangent plane or a local horizontal that supposedly changes. Like we're back to the disco ball Earth. And celestial navigation then makes it even worse, because those tangent planes from the get-go have to be even bigger. Even though an airplane would fly as far as any circle of equal altitude may go, some flights would easily do that and more. But the thing about it is that the circles of equal altitude is just one plane right there and then. Do you know what I mean? That they have to claim is just a tangent to a circle or to a sphere. So they have to create tangent planes to then use maths to somehow crowbar in a globe. Do you know what I mean? So
the way you said it before was great. They measure it on a flat plane and then they just globe it.
Yeah.
Hey, Chocolate, to answer your question, look, in chat during a live show, Benji says that they see Earth curve from the ISS. It's filmed. So, yes, they are going to space again.
Yeah, it's in the chat. I'm going to come in here and actually tell us that we're surrounded by a vacuum.
I don't know if they'll ever come in live
and do that. Chat. But why not? Isn't that what we're surrounded by, according to them?
Yep.
I don't know.
I'm saying the arguments as a whole will go back to the beginning, and in the beginning, space was their main thing. Pictures. The moon landing. There's a rover on Mars right now.
Well, the only place they can actually claim to see... Sorry, Nathan, you going to say something?
Wasn't me.
No, the only place they can actually claim to see Earth curve is from supposed space footage. So, I mean, Neil, you could be right. You know what I mean? Because that would be the last bastion of defense or whatever.
Where else are they going to go? They can't go forward. They're destroyed.
Not one proof of a globe.
I came across yesterday on YouTube again the Brian Cox, when he's talking about how gravity is not actually a force. It's actually what Einstein said it was. And that he agrees with the Flat Earth Society. Like, he made fun of them at first, and obviously we don't associate with Flat Earth Society. I don't know what the hell that is. But he was making fun of it, and then said, well, you know, they're right. Because the Earth, according to Einstein, is accelerating upwards. I just had to laugh, like these guys throw this flat Earth society crap at us, but here you have one of their priests completely agreeing with it in their paradigm.
Wait, so the apple's not falling from the tree?
Nah, we're rising
then?
up to meet the apple.
Yeah, that's
I
why
mean,
that's
that's
in there. That's exactly the same as boats falling over the horizon. The Flat Earth Society model rising up. Not only that, the rate that the Flat Earth Society pizza pie with boats falling over it in lieu of the globe Earth claim that boats fall over their horizon is moving up at what rate? Do you know what the Flat Earth Society pizza pie moves up at through space?
9.8 meters per second.
Spot on. The exact same rate they claim gravity at. It's the same. If it doesn't scream controlled opposition at you, I don't know what else could. That and the now we point it out, not before, boats falling over the horizon. I mean, edge of a flat Earth in their controlled opposition narrative. But in this instance, the pizza pie moves up through a sky vacuum. Why have you got their paradigm of a sky vacuum intact? Well, it's because it's the same people. And it's moving up at what rate? Oh, the rate that they say stuff falls to the ground at, 9.8 meters per second squared. All right, moving up through space at gravity's rate. All right, that's interesting. Yeah, they're just controlled opposition.
Maybe not.
With no proof.
Really? How would gas pressure distribution work in that model?
John must have something.
Well, there's people that are flat earthers that I don't think are controlled opposition that argue for ether, but I wouldn't exactly call them controlled opposition.
What is ether?
I'm not making the argument.
Wait till whistle past his point. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I'm
is
just
ether
saying-
part of the globe claim, John? That's the point. The current heliocentric claim, does that claim ether?
Yeah, that is kind of my point.
Oh.
You wouldn't. There's no necessity to incorporate space, or edges, or gravity into any model at all. I mean, they're all heliocentric only claims. I.e., boats falling over edges, stuff moving at 9.8 meters per second, and what was the other one? I've forgotten. Oh, space. Yeah, there's no need for them.
Well, just say you didn't know all this, right? Just say from ignorance, because that's where their argument's coming from, that they're trying to justify why things fall, right? And that's why they created that model. It's nonsensical because things don't just fall, but maybe they don't realize that.
Can't argue with you and you know it. I mean, there's no way I'm going to overcome this argument, John, and you damn well know it. So what do you want me to say?
I don't know if it's controlled op. I don't know if it's a Hegelian dialectic. I don't know.
No, neither do I, you bastard. Thank you so much. I hate being shown to be stupid. Thank you, though. Yes, you're right. I'm being a complete clown, aren't I? And just claiming that it's controlled opposition narrative because I've decided it's so. Because I can divine their motivations? No. Because I can prove where they've got a correlation between a claim on heliocentrism and the claim in Flat Earth Society? Yeah. I can extrapolate that out. I can try and justify it too. But I'm never going to win against this, am I? And I now see why Kiwi found this humorous.
What? No, but there is definitely evidence that there is a controlled opposition factor to them, since mega corporations like to forward them.
Well, just because the mega corporation
and heliocentric priests like Brian Cox likes to agree with them. Say, well, they're right. I should have clipped that out, actually.
Well, it's worse than that because Charles K. Johnson, who was the most well-known flat earther before we turned up, or us, like the nowadays flat earthers, the man who died in 2001, he squarely believed that this guy, I think his name is Leo Ferrari, who was the head of the Flat Earth Society at the time, like he was the two of them were absolutely opposed, enemies to the death, and he squarely believed and said that this guy and this Flat Earth Society were a controlled opposition, that they weren't the real deal.
Well, I can't say they're not. I can't say they're not, but in the same way, I can't say they are because I don't know.
Well, when it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, you know?
You can correlate it
looks
with
like
a duck.
ignorance to me. It looks like ignorance to me. It doesn't look like a duck. It looks like ignorance.
Well, ignorance is a part of controlled opposition, right? Because you want your flock to be ignorant in relation to you.
Why does it have to be an Italian guy that leads the Flat Earth Society? Jeez.
Well, I'm not going to ascribe malice to it.
It's funny that you say that, right? Because Brian Cox, when he was like right before when he introduced the whole Flat Earth Society thing, and he kind of making it a joke. You know how he speaks with that little posh voice, makes me want to knock him out all the time. There's this group of people out there, and they of course they call me a shill that gets paid millions of dollars to teach people that we live on a ball and stuff, and they're right about that. It was kind of a funny, like, yeah, we know that that's what it is, but it's kind of funny how he just kind of laughed to say, yeah, I get paid millions of dollars to teach you people that you live on a ball. Deal with it. And he's just laughing at the audience about it. So I can't stand that guy. Really can't.
Did he say he was shilling? Like, does he say that because he knows it's not? And
I don't think he used the word shill. I didn't quote him verbatim. I don't think he said shill, but like basically, coming from flat earthers, right? So he's putting it out like that. Like, oh, there's this group of people who think it's flat, who tell me I'm just an agent running around working for NASA, teaching people that they live on a ball and getting paid millions of dollars. And he's like, well, yeah, they're right about that. Because it's all funny, right? And then he goes into how Einstein and his gravity is basically what's its ball going upwards. And he says, yeah, they're right about that too. Like, nonsense.
I still see that as ignorance. I don't see that as malice. Just because there's morons willing to pay morons to say moronic things doesn't mean that it's malicious.
Yeah, I don't know if it is or not either. I'm just saying I find it funny. I would think it's more malicious than anything else just because of the way he says it. But yeah, I don't know. I can't define his thoughts. I don't know.
So, John, you think that they're just not understanding it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
He doesn't know either way. He said he doesn't know either way. I just don't want you to pin him to the reverse because he's already said, look, I can't prove they're not controlled opposition either.
Well, I believe something about it. I just believe it's ignorance. But I can't prove it either way. And I won't.
Yeah, but ignorance to a point. Ignorance to a point. I mean, when something's blatantly shown to you over and over again, and you're still holding on to something, I can't believe that it's ignorance. Got to be something else.
Consensus reality. You're talking about consensus reality. It is ignorance.
I understand.
Any Globers think that we live on a ball that is accelerating upwards at 9.8 meters per second squared?
Yeah, where are all the Globers? They're hiding?
Chocolate, that would be the upper echelons of the priesthood of ignorance. You have to be in a university to get that kind of stupidity.
But he's one of the priests, man. Why do they throw their priest under the bus? is what I'm trying to understand.
Well,
How do they take the story and remix it and try to present it to us and try to make it like, yeah, you don't understand what they're saying, but I understand what they're saying. Like what?
What about everything? What about everything that Adam read yesterday? Come on. Then at the end you come with that, so it leads me to believe that all of these people, the Neil deGrasse's and Brian Cox's, they all know Earth is flat.
No, I didn't get that from that. They have a very strong belief, and they think that belief is them knowing because they all agree to it. But it's just a belief, and they don't know what we know. So
look at gravity. It's an imaginary world.
Well, Arwen argued for gravity for how long?
Right, as a concept for years. Or well, against Tony, that was like a year altogether.
Oh, wait a second. You were holding on to gravity for a year?
Yeah, as a concept, not as scientific proof. It was pre-science, right? Pre-science revelation. It was before we knew about the scientific method, before QE. And then he came in, and then I ignored that. But eventually, yeah, I realized gravity is an aberration. It's just a very suggestive effect or an idea, a concept, and it can even be translated into being used as a tool within architecture, because that deals with solids usually and liquids, right? You don't have to deal with gas dynamics, so then it works out. And because of its simplistic nature, it's a really effective tool. A lot of people know how to use gravity in calculations, and it doesn't matter to those calculations whether the model is actually based on physical reality or not. You see?
Yeah, but that's why they say weight is that's why they claim that weight is caused by or created due to a force of gravity, that physicalized gravity. You understand?
Right.
That's why it is. So most people don't even know that weight is currently not even described as having anything to do with gravity in the current description of physics. But
but that's the
most
thing,
people
you
in
know.
the world believe it is.
You have the official physics story and what they say everything is, and then you have just things that people do in their jobs, right? Certain calculation constructions. It's all prefab programmed in these days, right? In these assisting 3D programs for architecture. So they just yes, gravity. Oh, we're going to test what you built together in this model in the 3D, and we're going to test how the forces are redistributed when it's actually built. Well, they apply gravity, a basic gravity formula. Yes, it's not based on physical reality, but it does actually pan out, and it's really easy, right? So they use the gravity idea as a tool, as a practical architecture tool. But yeah, it's still just a tool. It's not actually based on reality, but it's close enough.
All right, now with what Arwen said, how are you going to say that these people are doing this maliciously when Arwen just gives such an eloquent explanation for how it can confuse people?
Well, I wouldn't say that most of these people are doing something maliciously. I would say that all I'd say about the general public, including the PhDs out there, is as long as they accept the likes of NASA as being honest, then they're not going to be able to see past. They're not going to be able to see reality or understand it. As long as they do that, as long as they keep believing that weight is caused by a force of gravity, as long as they keep believing these kind of things, then how are they going to ever see past?
I wasn't saying the population. I was saying the engineering community and technological communities accept this and have been tricked by it. And Arwen given excellent apologetics for it. So I don't ascribe maliciousness to this.
What, that they never use gravity?
Because
when
it works, right? They don't run into... The thing is, when they apply it they don't run into trouble. They don't run into construction mistakes, right? They really don't, because it is good enough.
Yeah, you're not
even though it's
constructing.
not based on reality.
They're not
How do they
constructing.
When they
define it?
apply what?
They're not constructing any of that
When they
gas.
apply what?
That's what I'm saying. Apply what?
When they
I do
apply
construction.
Newtons. When they use newtons.
When they
Right,
use
when they
Newtons,
apply
really?
gravity to
I've been asking
structural
this for about
integrity of
5
designs.
years. I've been asking this for about 5 years to Arwen for probably longer. Can you go ahead and post that? I want to see citation, please.
Dude, that's... And I knew an architect. The dad of one of my exes was an architect, and he showed it on his computer like 20 years ago.
Fair enough.
And I
I've
was
been asking
convinced,
ballers for this
that's,
too. With
that's
the
a simulation. No, it's
Yeah, I
just
got
a
it.
simulation.
Every day.
I got it. Thanks. So I've been asking ballers this because they come out, well, engineers use Newton. Yeah, it's the law of gravity. Really? Okay, well, show it. Funny, no one's ever showed it.
I've seen it. I don't have
Okay.
that program.
That's fair enough. Who's the engineers out there? Come on. Bring them on in here and then just post a citation. Listen, I don't have a problem with it. Post it. We're good. I'll just move on. So go ahead and post the debunked laws of Newton being used in engineering. I want to see them.
That's not what
Well,
I was
I don't think
suggesting.
it's like literally apply. No, look, it's just a simulator, right? You basically get a 3D pre-model of how you're going to design your building, and you even fill in what the materials are, and then you allow a simulation. You basically let that construction be subjected to wind, to natural gravity, whatever is supposed to be there where it's going to be built eventually. And then you get to see the stresses, the force stresses on the design, right? And gravity is a part of that.
No,
Wait.
what they
Wait.
do
Yes,
is-
it is.
Stop.
It's,
No, stop. Weight's a part of that. The density of the materials is a part of that.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But they just call that newtons.
Right. Exactly. But it's based on simulations. And yeah, if those simulations wouldn't work, they wouldn't be using them anymore, right? Because then buildings would collapse and their careers would be over, you know?
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah, but what Nathan said is the crux. They're swapping the word gravity for weight and interchangeably.
Yes.
And that's the problem. They keep on swapping and they'll use the word density. You know, they'll keep swapping and they'll throw in the word mass if they have to. You know, but it's all based on the begging of the question of gravity as a force.
Yeah.
No engineer can ever prove that they are accounting for a force of gravity. They can show they're accounting for weight and density, but they can't show that they're accounting for a force of gravity.
And
Right,
nobody's
but
standing
they just think
there.
it's the same.
But nobody's
They're
standing.
not physicists.
Nobody's standing in that room with that engineer and saying, you're not using gravity correctly, or you're swapping weight with gravity when you think about this. Nobody's doing that to them. This isn't a malicious thing. It's just ignorance.
So who
Right.
was that
So
one
as far as I'm
engineer
concerned,
that came?
gravity is just a mathematical tool. It's just a mathematical tool. It's not perfectly correct. Maybe there could be like a relative density formula system replacement. But yeah, is that really necessary? Because it's worked as a tool, it's worked out great so far.
Yeah, but
What
it's
about
only
that other
correct
engineer?
because
What about Brian Mullen? Didn't he lose his job because somebody reported him or something? He's an engineer that came out and said it's all a bunch of crap.
yeah,
Well,
Brian Mullen.
not concerning the the designing procedure though.
Yeah, but Arwen, they can make gravity work perfectly as long as they refer to weight as being caused by gravity. Do you know what I mean? So in their mathematics, they can show gravity working perfect, and everything works perfect because they're referring to weight and density. You know, it's just begging the question without knowing they're begging the question.
Right, but they don't need to know because they're not physicists. They're just trying to get their design right.
That's John's point, right? Actually, they're putting the house up right now. Let me go ask the architect if he's using gravity. Right in front of me, they put up a house. Hey, are you applying gravity to this?
I bet you what he'll do is say yes, and then he'll start describing weight and density to you.
Right. But I think that, technically, even within the physics community, it's already admitted that, whenever they really talk about gravity in the physics world, it's going to be about density, right? They have specific gravity, they called it, but they have accounted for relative density and how that applies to physical reality within their systems. They just kind of like shove it under the carpet because gravity is part of a bigger scheme. So it's already recognized that it exists and that whatever gravity is supposed to be is going to be related to relative density or specific gravity.
Chocolate, today I'm just going to hold my hammer and I'm going to see if the nail comes up to hit it.
I'm sorry. Coworker was talking. What happened?
And I'm just going to hold my hammer in the air and see if the nail comes up to meet it today. I won't have to use any energy.
I didn't know you were a flat Earth societalist.
Well, if you just let go of the hammer.
Or you didn't know he was a heliocentrist named Brian Cox, who also agrees with that premise.
Yeah, that just has to be ignorance. I don't think that's actually malicious. As it turns out, the world is not full of liars. It's just full of morons.
I agree with that, but look at how Nathan broke down perspective today with the brick analogy. I mean, it's so simple, and it's right there. Okay?
How long did it take Nathan? How long did it take Nathan to learn all that?
About 2 minutes.
To learn it, not to say it, to learn it, to be able to articulate it.
It takes years.
Yeah, about 2 minutes.
No,
come on, Nathan.
Years grinding at the wheel.
5 years.
Yeah, it's years grinding at the wheel, refining it, because your own senses and your own pre-programmed ideas are constantly interfering. So it takes years to refine that.
Okay, what I'm saying is the listener, when they're hearing that, and you're a straight out believer in Earth curve, and it's all, when that's presented to you, if you can't see how easy that is and how that explains what they're saying Earth curve is, then I don't know, there's something else.
Usually they don't get past the first word before they go into cognitive dissonance.
The programming is strong, man. That's why they start us very, very young. They know what they're doing with this crap.
The programming is strong in this one.
Let me try and explain it to Neil with the brick example, Neil. So if you imagine me talking to a ball believer about that brick example, and so you take your brick and you put it at 1 mile and you can see it, and then you put it at 5 miles. At that point, the cogs turn in the globe believer's head and they go, so it's beyond Earth curve now, right? And as soon as you say it's too small to see, that's the point that John's saying they immediately go into cognitive dissonance. You're describing something vanishing because it's too small at a great distance. For them, processing-wise, no, it's going beyond Earth curve.
Okay.
The problem you have, Neil, is someone has to, like what Nathan can explain within a minute or so of speech, as far as the brick analogy goes for angular size change. In fact, it took Nathan a good few years to get to the point of being able to do it that concisely. So someone can hear that, and if they don't have, like, the problem is the trigger point. If they can get past the trigger point of their schooling and the consensus world they've grown up in to tell them that it's a globe, if they can get past that trigger point, they can then listen to it, take it in, think about it, test it, and then relay that information to someone else. But if they can't get past that trigger point, then anything Nathan is saying is just, he may as well be shouting at them, calling them personal insults. because they are going to fight against it. So if they can't get past the trigger point, they're fighting it. It's one or the other.
But that would be more akin to ignorance than malice. So, yeah.
Trigger point, like guy from yesterday. After he tried to tell us boats are disappearing over a curve, and Nathan told him, oh, so you got a boat disappearing over an edge. Look how he got. No, I didn't say edge. No, that's not what it is. Right?
My boats
That's a
don't
trigger
fall
point
over
for
an
that
edge.
guy. Even though that's literally what he just told us, but he
I
doesn't
never
realize
said
that.
fall.
The curve
You
is
said
not
fall.
an edge?
I didn't say fall.
What is it then? If the curve is not an edge, then what is it?
Yeah, but that was funny how that triggered him. When Nathan said, your boat's falling over an edge. Boy, he didn't like that one bit.
But seriously, though, if the curve is not an edge you're looking past, then what is it?
You're asking a question about the cognitive processing of anti-flat earthers after we debunk the claim in the first instance. So you're saying, after you show that it's not an Earth curve edge horizon, well, what is it then? Well, for an anti-flat earther, they've got to try and solve that problem. But in reality, they're just at that stage denying the claim in the first instance. Because Earth curve is their physical horizon, blocking boats and buildings with them falling over it. What Neil's laughing at is the fact that he took aversion to the word falling. So he said, the boat goes over the edge and is blocked by it. And I said, sorry, your boat's falling over the edge then. Now, obviously, all I've done is change one word to make it the same exact phraseology as the Flat Earth Society use against us.
This is why I think it's more of a paradigm shift situation, because it's an educational thing. You know, the more we learn about it, the more our ideas change.
Oh, here's a guy now, John. Yeah, this is you'll never have a horizon on a flat Earth.
You will never, Neil.
In orthographic view.
Hold on.
In orthographic view, that's correct.
Right. That is correct. You will never have a physical geometric obstruction on a flat Earth, Neil. What's wrong with that?
That has many layers of nonsense within it, that claim, Neil, because what that is saying is that the Earth has to be a globe, or is a globe, not has to be, but the Earth is a globe because we have an horizon.
Right, but the way he's
just the mere fact that there's a horizon is proof there's a globe. That's what they're saying with that.
Yeah, that's what he's saying right now. Yep.
Yeah, but the way they define horizon, ask him what a horizon is, and that's when you'll see the ignorance in his statement.
Yeah, because that's when it should fall apart. Right.
See, they have a positive claim of what the horizon is. We don't. I mean, some people label it as a phenomenon, and that's fine. You know, we don't know, really. When it comes down to it, we don't know, and we don't need to know. But
well, I think the horizon is an effect, right? Well, it's an effect that comes naturally with sight. It's an optics inherent effect, and it's an apparent effect.
Yeah, it's the angular resolution limit on a perfect day. Typically, you won't get to see that limitation because there's other things more prevalent that will limit your view prior to just the angular resolution limit. So when this got discussed with Life is Short, shout out to you, my friend, on Ranty's channel for 6 hours straight, what we were talking about was a picture that Red Pill Philosophy had taken, and it was so flat and so far. But Life is Short's point was that image caught his attention because it was the first one that you could say, I think this is actually at the point where there's so little interference from other stuff going on. The difference between the water and the air is so little. There's so little moisture in the air. There's so little going on that we can actually see right up until the point where we get to the limitation of the camera. as opposed to some sort of atmospheric condition or, I don't know, a swell in the water, whatever. A list of hundreds of different things that could cause a limitation to be more prevalent than the actual optical resolution limit based on the angle of view. So that particular image was like, we were all bowled over it because it's so clear and you can see so far and it's so flat. But he was more, Life is Short was more interested in it because you're actually at that point where there's enough factors removed that you can say, look, here you go, I can actually match this up with the angular resolution mathematics, with the Rayleigh criterion, in other words.
Yeah, all angular resolution mathematics are done over a flat plane. They use angles. So when I don't know if you heard it, John, I don't know if you were here earlier, but towards the end of the last show, I stated that, of the live show, sorry, that a 20-foot high boat, right, you're standing at the water or at the shore or whatever, watching a boat move that's 20 foot high off of the water level that sails away from you 8 miles. It's gone into its angular size at 8 miles away is 0.0217 something, right? That means it's gone past the point of the average human eye's angular resolution limit. So you won't see that 20-foot high boat at 8 miles away. And if that boat is 50 foot high, then you won't see the bottom 20 foot of it at 8 miles away. Because your eyes can't resolve it. So when you get a super zoom camera, you might be able to resolve it with that at 8 miles away, but you won't be able to resolve it with your eyes. So
that's
what's
why I like saying.
Yeah,
that's why I like saying things go into the horizon instead of behind it.
Well, things become the horizon.
That's a much better way to say it.
Yeah, the horizon is an amalgamation.
Things become the horizon. That's a good one.
Yeah, because
they go into it. Like the horizon is basically the folding of whatever you're seeing. It's folding into out of sight because it's too small.
Well, I would say become it is a better way to define it, because then it's not going into something. Because when you say into something, you're kind of saying that it's something you can go into, as opposed to
it kind of asserts that there's something there. Yeah.
It's a description. Like if you have a drone or whatever, and it's looking at the horizon and then flying away from where it's looking at, things are gonna look like they are folding into that horizon to the camera.
Yeah, visually it might look that way, but the horizon itself, if I'm going to whatever way you want to describe it, it's fine. But I would describe it as things become the horizon. Okay. Because the bottom, that 20-foot high boat becomes my horizon.
Right, but it's an optics effect, and it takes place in the optics medium, so it would only fit to basically go by the description of what it's like for an observer, and that would be into it. It's folding into it as it goes away.
But that into it gives it physicality or a location. I can go into it.
Not necessarily.
If you know what I mean.
It's optics specific, right?
But that's why I'm saying it becomes the horizon. It's whatever. It's up to you. I would prefer to say that it becomes the horizon, because the horizon is no definable. That's the point. That's our point about the horizon. It's not a geometric location. It's not a location. It's an optical effect that doesn't have any particular distance, because it's purely optical. So you can't measure a distance to something that's purely optical. If you know what I mean. Yeah. How do you do that?
Either that, or it's this weird physical place that keeps moving around every time we go outside. I don't want to believe that.
Hold on, but either way you want to say it, it's not going behind a physical thing.
No, it's not.
That's the real big point, that where the globe dies.
I agree more with Brian. It becomes it. I understand what he means when he says that.
Me too.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on what description suits you best. For me, the into. It become. I'm saying it John's way now and Aaron's way. But for it to become something that becomes your horizon, because your horizon is like as Nathan was saying about life, about Red Pill's philosophy's observation. that all the things that would get in the way were not there. So all you had was an angular resolution limit. And that's what you ended up seeing, your angular resolution. That's what was in the photograph, the angular resolution limit of the human eye.
Where can you find that red pill? Sorry, Brian. Where can you find that red pill picture? Is it available anywhere?
Type in "life is short."
Somewhere.
"Life is short" into YouTube might actually get you there, or do it on the homepage of Nathan Oakley 1980, and you'll find it. "Life is short" is the heading. I trimmed them down to, I don't know, 50 minutes, and did maybe 5 or 6 of them. Just trimmed them up. So yeah, you can find that, and he jumps in on, I don't know, section 3. I can't remember, but the whole point, his entire paper was based on it, that image. So on one video, or one photograph, if you want to take it as one image that he used. So yeah, just type in "life is short." But I just want to, it's only a minor point, but when we're in language, we do say "into the distance," don't we? Into the distance, but over the horizon. It's just the way that the heliocentric model has hijacked the English language to make you describe things in a slightly weird way when it comes to a very specific point. But when you're talking about distance, things do go into the distance until they reach this point where there's a limit to the distance that you can see. Suddenly it becomes Earth curve and you're going over it. But into the horizon, I don't see any problem with that.
Well, whichever way people like it. Sorry.
It only becomes a problem if you try to reify the horizon into a physical thing.
Well, I don't know if I could. I can prove that the angular resolution limit is real. I can prove that that's real. So I can state that, let's just say, the 20-foot boat becomes my horizon when it's 8 miles away. I could state that it will become my horizon at 20 miles away. Once there's no other factors getting in its way, like inferior mirage or waves or whatever, I can say that it will become my horizon at 20 miles away. I can show that this does happen and it's real. That's what I can say.
But you know what anti-flat earthers did? So back to this, check out my angle of attack playlist. So let's say there's a video of somebody with a very long, flat warehouse, and they put a little light, a LED light off a camera phone at one end, or just a light, a torch, say. And then they walk to the other end of the warehouse. And then all they do is they lower their camera lower and lower and lower. And eventually, the light disappears. Then they raise the camera up and it comes back. And you can quantify that to your heart's content with an angular resolution limit, limited by you lowering your camera and reducing the angle at the base, to the point where the diffraction limit's reached and breached and the light disappears. You can even show a freeze frame that will basically show you the diagrammatical, admittedly it's just a picture, of what in the Rayleigh criterion is described as the diffraction limit. You can show that occurring with the light itself, right? And you can present that to anti-flat earther. And do you know what they'll say? They'll say, the floor's curved. That's what they'll say.
Yep.
That's correct.
No straight lines on the globe.
Yeah, but they can't say that anymore due to Black Swan. Because they need to infer a physical horizon in reality, which they can't infer. Because they state themselves that the horizon is not physical since January 2020.
Right, but you can do this without a horizon, is my point. So the other example, which Chocolate will probably jump in and back me up on, was not Planar Walk. An Orthodox, I think it was. And he's describing, with his globe hat on, how a boat is being blocked from the bottom up into the distance. Now, bearing in mind, this is a toy boat at a very short distance, pre-horizon, that's disappearing from the bottom up. Why? Well, because the angle's too limited. Now, that was the glober's explanation for why this thing's disappearing bottom up, pre-horizon. Until we get to the horizon, then obviously that's not just an overall limitation to the angular resolution limit of your optical viewing device, eyeball or camera. No. Suddenly it's Earth curve, even though you can show the exact same effect induced pre-horizon.
Yeah, I mean...
he literally said that it's not... I don't see the boat disappearing behind a curve, I see the boat not being able to be resolved by the camera.
Yeah, that was a bit of a Weasley thing though, because he was still inadvertently stating that the horizon was physical, a physical location that boats sail over.
No, he's not.
No,
you're misunderstanding, Brian. He's conceding because what he's actually saying is the example shown here in this boat is identical to the effect we show at the horizon. But where there is no account whatsoever for angular limitation in an Earth curve mathematics, pre-horizon, I can claim, like on screen now, exactly this example. This is a better example because it's here and now. This is National Geographic. So what have they got? They've got a claim where they're describing how Earth curve has blocked the bottom of this flag on the back of a boat in the distance. Okay, that's great. So what is actually occurring is the same as detailed with the toy boat. There's a limitation to the angle that's blocking the bottom of the boat because you can't resolve it. How do we know? Because the horizon's behind the boat. But of course the dicks at National Geographic didn't notice that what is claimed to be an Earth curve edge, that's the horizon, is beyond this boat. So we know that they're claiming that the point the boat's at is the point the Earth curve is at, but Black Swan, the actual horizon's behind it. So what's the cause of this then? If the horizon is Earth curve, and we show that the horizon's beyond the boat, but what was claimed to be Earth curve blocking the boat, how do you explain that now? Well, with the unorthodox, well, that's not Earth curve anymore. The reason this boat is blocked from the bottom up is because of an angular limitation. We have no account for in Earth curve maths. I mean, only 5 minutes ago, National Geographic were saying it was Earth curve, but obviously they hadn't noticed the horizon was behind it.
To me, that was national.
I just put it in Master B if you want to listen to it.
Hold on, before you do, how long did it take us to describe that adequately?
30 seconds.
30 seconds, you think?
Something like that, minute maybe.
Okay. See that, but that's trimmed down from how long did it take Life is Short?
6 hours.
6 hours.
Just detailing it to me to summarise it after 6 hours for me to get a reasonable grip on it. For him to research it and write the paper, 6 months. For him to research it up to writing the paper that he presented for 6 hours, a year. For me to have a grasp on it in terms of detailing the angular resolution limit incorporated into an example with a brick, 5 years. Anyway, let's play this clip. Oh, go on, John. Sorry, I didn't realise you hadn't made your point yet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, when someone new to this subject comes in, all they have is your 1 minute explanation. Of course, they're going to revert back to their, however many years of education. That's just
indoctrination. No, let you talk, bro. they can't help themselves.
Unorthodox Indio.
Oh, that was Indio?
Yeah, that was Indio. Dude.
Unorthodox Indio. Unorthodox Indio.
Yeah. So, how does a boat disappear in 500 feet when the globe model predicts the horizon is 2,600 feet away? So, what's blocking the boat if it's not at the horizon yet?
I don't see anything blocking the boat. I see the resolution. I see the camera being unable to resolve the boat.
Welcome to Flat Earth. So, what's blocking the boat if it's not at the horizon yet?
I don't see anything blocking the boat. I see the resolution. I see the camera being unable to resolve the boat.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Welcome to Flat Earth, my friend. Snacks to the back, bathrooms to the left, DJs taking requests, and smoke them if you got them. Welcome, Unorthodox. Unorthodox.
It doesn't disappear. It just unresolved.
You just snatched your own wig off. Unorthodox.
Look, this video I just...
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!